So thank you all this morning for having the double prayer time. I appreciate it. If anybody wants to hold the prayer for the movement in your heart and your daily prayers, there are some copies in the back. And so, it's the time when all the kids are getting ready to go back to school, right? So what do? We go back to basics. And in Unity, that's our 5 basic principles, which Carla talked about last week, right? And I was sitting here, I'm like, oh yeah, there we are. There's the next topics for Sunday morning. So here I am. God is. I am. I think. I pray. I live. Those are the basic understanding of Unity principles. And Unity is a way that we live our life, right? It's a process. And it is a process from the intellectual knowledge of the universe shifting and transforming through our heart space and through that connection with Spirit that is indwelling within us. And so as we, as individuals, do our own daily work, yes, it's not always easy. Yes, sometimes you do not want to sit still and be quiet. And Carla gave us some really good tips on ways and spiritual tools that we can utilize so that we don't have to just sit in the silence. And an example is this morning I got up and I gathered my thoughts for today's talk, because that's when I do it. And then I went for a walk. And then I did my yoga. And then I just sat with the Mula mantra in the background. And for those of you that don't know it, it's an Indian mantra. And it talks about the life and beauty of all that is, right? And so I just sat in that for a while. And I always do some type of practice. Now, I've been doing this my entire life because I was blessed to grow up in Unity. So sitting in the silence is something that I can do, right? I did it as a teenager, sitting in YOU, Youth of Unity, just sitting in the quiet. That's all we did. We didn't have words. All we do is sit with Spirit. You have to train yourself in that, right? Because monkey mind gets in the way. Anybody know that? But here's one of the keys. God is always there in whatever experience you are having. Take a breath. Think about what I just said. God is there within every experience you are having. Because you are the expression of God, right? And so there's no separation. Even in the gook and the glue and the yucky and everything that goes on, God is still there. We might not be connected to it at that point. We might have lost the thought, but it's still there. It never leaves. So, glad it's just water. Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder and mother of Unity, says in the book, How to Let God Help You, that God is the very intelligence of life. God is within each of us. It is the wisdom, love, power, life, and substance of all that is. That can be kind of heady, but think about it. God is the very intelligence of life. Charles Fillmore, the other co-founder of Unity, states in the book Christ Enthroned in Man, God, the supreme being, is the source out of which all creation evolves. God mind is the omnipresent spiritual realm composed of ideas. And through prayer and spiritual realization, we awaken to those ideas and weave them into our soul consciousness and utilize them to create out of our heart. So remember when I said, in the silence, we're moving from our heart, our head to our heart to our soul. And that's what I'm talking about. It's when we can get out of all the stuff and allow the blank canvas, if you're an artist, to be there, and then the creative expression to flow through color and paint and lines and the creative process into being. And your life is no different than that canvas in the creation, because that's what it really is. Life is a creative process. Metaphysically, God is the Almighty One, the Creator, the ruler of the universe, the infinite, the eternal. God is principle, not a person. It is the absolute, the underlying, unchangeable truth. God as principle is absolute good expressed through creation. And guess what creation is? It's you, it's me, it's every being in the universe. And we continue that creative process as the creative beings of life. I know that what we teach in Unity regarding God may be different from what the dualistic good-bad nature of God that shows up in other religions and institutions. Some of you may have been raised in those. And sometimes it's hard to understand because the belief in the outer God is so ingrained into the patterns of our mind and in our hearts. And it takes time for us to recreate that image into something different. I know one Sunday, I was after church, one of the moms came up to me, and she was really concerned because her teenage daughter didn't believe in God. And I thought, wow, that's really weird, because I know this teenager, and I'm pretty sure she believes in God. And so, we were talking, and she came to this conclusion through conversations with her daughter about God. And so I asked her, well, what is God to you? Just so I could try to figure out where the dysfunction was at in this conversation and the chaos. And she began to articulate this God, this man in the sky, right? Outside of herself, controlling all life. And I said, you're right. Your daughter does not believe in that God. And probably never will. And she just looked at me. She's like, well, I don't understand. And I said, well, because she believes in God as principle, the creative principle, the power, the intellect, and the oneness of all that exist in the absolute good. And that's hard for people to understand sometimes when it's always been separate, right? But God is never separate. God is, and that's it. It's always there in different ways. It shows up as love. It shows up as a new life, a baby, right? It shows up in the flowers, in the trees, and in nature. The creative process is the original expression of God. So, as human beings, we are that creative process of God. God is alive in every cell in our body, every molecule of the universe. There's no separation, there's only oneness, which is why we use affirmative prayer to realign our thinking when we're out of sorts, right? When our bodies are not functioning the way that they were designed to function and something's wrong in the pattern of life, we can use our words as the expression of God to heal and to realign those cells in our body, to release the pain in our body. So, everybody, close your eyes for a minute if you're willing. Take a breath. Let it go. And then if you feel any pain in your body, I want you to visualize and take a deep breath and see that breath of air going to that spot of pain and expanding it out. Take a breath. Were you able to expand it and release the pain? It's how simple it can be to focus your inner mind and your thoughts to a specific area to release and expand at the same time. The purpose of our life as the expression, the creation of God, is the unfoldment of the many departments. How many of you got little, I'll do it my way, little file drawers like a computer in your brain, right? And you're going to store that one here for later because you know you're going to need it, and you're going to put this one over here in this file because you're going to need it, right? That's the way my brain works. All these different file drawers or departments or mansions, as Jesus told us in the Bible, this is all there, right? We have it in our mind. And it's been planned for you to enable you to know and be the perfect pattern of being. Now, I'm not saying you have to be perfect. What I'm saying is that you need to recognize the perfect pattern of life, the being of life. Because through that being life and that perfect pattern, we are in alignment in our mind, body, and spirit. And there's no power in the universe that can counter that if we stay in that space. Or if we recognize when we've gone off the rail and come back to that space. Because I guarantee you, we all gonna go off the rail. I do it every day in some way. So it's being aware and noticing it, right, to come back into alignment. That's God in action, always. So Carla last week talked about tools that we can establish through health, happiness, and prosperity. So I invite you this week, as you're going back to basics and you're going back to work and school, and if you have kids and they're all floating around and grandkids, one of mine starts high school this week. So that's an interesting time. Scary for me. I'll be driving in a year. But as we're going back into routine, because this time of year is when the days are getting shorter, right? We're going into the cooler months, and our routine is to get back in into some type of system of living, whatever that usually is for you in the fall going into the winter, right? Because we kind of hibernate in there. We all need that rest. We all need that juvenation until we come back in the summer and we all go play and enjoy again. But as you're doing your work this week, really sit with yourself. Sit in the silence for 5 minutes, if nothing else. And start with 1 minute. If that's all you can do, then by golly, just do 1 minute. But as you get an understanding, you'll be able to move it to 2. Then you'll be able to move it to 3. Then you'll be able to move it to 4. And you'll be able to move it to 5. And if you can take 5 minutes every day in the silence with Spirit, your life will change, I guarantee it. Because God is always present. I love you. I bless you. I behold the living Spirit of each of you.